got me this. Last time she was in Mexico before it got really crazy down there.
Ladies and gentlemen, live tonight for a special engagement, Matt Powers, the permaculture student, online. Take a look. Change your life. Change your world. Learn how to make soil. Matt Powers. How the heck are you, Matt? And that's a heck of a, is that a uke?
It's a ukulele bass, so it has those true lower tones. My wife found it for me. I never knew they existed.
Wow,
she brought it home one day.
That's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know the man that you're looking at, he is one of the most influential up-and-coming permaculture teachers on the planet, Matt Powers. His new book, Regenerative Soil, The Science and Solutions, is a bestseller, rated 4.5 stars in hardcover, is one of the most impressive textbooks on soil and regenerative agriculture I have ever set my eyes on. Matt Powers, you're a legend, and we love you.
Well, I don't think it would have gotten to there without your help, without your support. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you having me on again. It's great to be here.
Well, the reason we're doing the podcast is because A, that you're awesome, B, that you help a lot of people grow a lot of food, and C, Regenerative Soil, the in-depth online course with Matt Powers, a 16-week in-depth course based on your best-selling book, which we just showed, is about to launch. So if you could, in just a few minutes, tell our listeners what this first of all, when I see 16-week course, I'm scared. And you and I were talking about a lot of people have a little bit of anxiety going into these things. A 16-week course. I mean, do I really need graduate school to learn about soil, Matt?
Well, I designed it that long because it's bite-sized pieces, just 2 to 4 hours each week, so it fits into busy schedules. I was trying to respond to requests to make things fit into really hard work schedules, lots of balance in people's lives, and so that's what I was trying to do. But yeah, the thing is, what I do is take us week by week through the different aspects of the science, and then I tie it all together into the practice. So that we all can understand which actions and when to take them and how much to add when. Because so many of us think it's just one thing and think it's just, we just need this one thing, or we just need to do this one thing once. And there's more sophistication to it. But the beauty of it is once we understand that it's the organic matter, that it's the soil biology, that it's the minerals, that it is the air and water, and it's plants and photosynthesis. It's just balancing those 5 things, and they're actually quite easy to balance. Well, then we achieve soil that gets better every year, which is regenerative by definition.
Now, I'm going to give you a great case in point and an example here. I thought it was a few things, so I looked into this and looked into that. And still the blueberries didn't grow, or this didn't happen. And then I even found another layer where I live in an alkaline region in the desert Southwest, and certain berries like currants do amazing in alkaline soil, right? But for 7 years, I was trying to plant a blueberry to no avail. And so I did a little blueberry science, and I literally amended the soil for a few years using a blueberry, it's called blueberry tone. I'm pretty sure you know about holly tone and plant tone. This is an organic product that you can put into the soil that changes the alkalinity, it changes the mineral content, and that is also necessary for certain specific plants that you're growing in a region that doesn't support those plants. And we're trying to grow food in an area where you can't grow food. So we have some of the most difficult conditions, which makes it the best to experiment with regenerative soils and with doing all these things that we're talking about. And a 16-week course probably, in my opinion, isn't long enough to learn all the nuance, Matt. And just like you said, you think it's one thing, it's the compost, it's the pH, it's the humidity, it's the water, it's the mud content, it's the sand content, it's the drainage. Maybe I don't have enough swales. Maybe there's too much direct sun. all of these inputs, right? And in the end, when people say, how do you grow such amazing squash? Or why does this plant look so abundant here? And I say, you know what? I had nothing to do with the plant. I put those seeds in last October. But what I did do is I've been working on my soil. I've been working on my soil since I got here. And it's a never-ending process. Can you continue? Can you extrapolate from there?
Absolutely. I just want to touch before on what you were saying though about blueberries. When we take those like complex things, we're trying to figure out these problems, trying to bring all these amendments in. If we just step back and saw from nature's perspective, it's like, oh, well, the reason the blueberries grew where they were native was because they paired with the soil types. And the reason they don't grow native in the area that you're in or that I'm in is because the soil types are too alkaline. In my area, it's like limestone, right? And so it naturally would pair, these things would evolve and thrive in the soils that were native to it. And so all we're doing is bringing things back towards something that feels like home to that plant so that we can make that happen. And the amazing thing about all this is though we could get into like one size fits all thinking here by what I'm saying, but we have to understand that the plants are going to tweak it either way. When we bring in organic matter, it is a buffer, and it draws us towards pH 7, pH 6.5 range. And that buffer is like, it makes us more regenerative, it allows for self-healing, but it allows for the plant to then dictate a lot of those relationships, so they can make it more acidic, or they can make it a little bit more alkaline, if that's what they prefer. It's the organic matter and the minerals that together really allow and reinforce where plants are. And it's because those minerals feed certain microbiology. It's because those composts have a certain microbiology from that. And yeah, and then just seeing it, it's like what is natural? What is most natural for this, right? It opens up that door, and it's so simple. It really is so simple. Like if we think about the constituents of soil. And so that's what the course really is about. It's about walking things through. All right, so in this book, I talk about the origins of the minerals and elements, how we discovered them and named them, because it actually is rooted in realistic stuff that you could do in your backyard, right? Potash, potassium, they're alkali salts.
Did you say
actually take ashes in a pot and
Did you say pot?
boil them down? Yeah. Yeah, ashes in a pot. They boil them down. You boil you with water. You boil it down until it's salts. The word in Arabic was alkali for this.
Yeah,
that's where we get the term alkaline. Potash. The reason wood ash is so alkaline is because it's literally what we led to the name.
Hey Matt. Let me jump in real quick and just share with you a story of my discovery. Okay, so I'm studying soil science over the last 5-10 years, same time you are, and I'm learning about permaculture for the first time like 8-10 years ago, about chop and drop, and it all makes sense to me. I'm like, oh, mulching, you're going to preserve the moisture, there'll be more composting, it'll break down, whatever. But that's not the key. The key hit me 4 or 5 years ago when I was chopping and dropping some of these plants that I was researching. So I was researching the wild edibles and the weeds I was chopping and dropping, and I was heavily researching them, and I found that the majority of these native invasive weeds that are also edible, like lamb's quarter and native amaranths and things like that, I'm chopping and dropping them. Even let's say yellow clover or alfalfa. These are taproot weeds or taproot native, I don't know what you want to call them, invasives. But they're literally tapping into the deep subsoil and bringing up minerals that are not in the topsoil. And when you chop and drop them, they break down and re-provide those minerals from depth up at the surface, which is necessary. That's why we add rock dust, for goodness sakes. But simply the practice of chop and drop that was working is now scientifically explained by simply bringing up minerals from depth and replenishing the soil. And are these the types of things that are revealed in your 16-week course?
Absolutely. And there's a lot to this, because when we understand that our soils have just naturally, just through erosion, just through time, been depleted of these minerals. I mean, Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin, mountains flow into the sea. And so bringing these minerals, rock dust or kelp's really good. I love kelp. Bringing these things back, it just makes sense. So in a way, it's like a common sense that we never were told about when you start applying these things. And you're like, oh, wow. So because my soil has been tilled so much, because it's been exposed to the elements, the wind and the sun, I've lost my organic matter. I got to bring back that with compost or really healthy plants, because they exude the carbonaceous sugars and protons and energy. And it's just bringing back these relationships that creates soil. And if we can hold the moisture, that's why biochar is so useful. That's why organic matter is also, again, useful. But if we can bring these things back to the soil, we can bring the pieces that are missing, whether they're minerals or organic matter or moisture. I mean, half the time, right, we're bringing the moisture, right, from our wells. And then, by the way, a side note, and I mean, you probably know this, but if you've got hard water or bicarbonate-rich water, be super careful with it, because it will bind up to 70% of the nutrients you're adding. So let's say you're adding kelp and your minerals or a fertilizer or whatever, that will get just bound up by the carbonates and bicarbonates in hard water. So there's a lot of people now that are using special filters and recommending all sorts of filters to remove those things. So I just want to put that out there.
Awesome. All right, let's take this.
Do you have hard water?
Yeah, we do. So we'll talk about that later. But let's step it up a little further, because we talked about chop and drop and restoring the minerals to the surface. Now, there's been some technologies developed that can make super composts. And this has been, and I made fun of it for years, about Elaine Ingram specifically, with giant 6-foot thermometers that you shove into the pile, etc. But right there, I want to talk about that. That's the bioreactor called the Johnson-Su composter, or the Johnson-Su bioreactor. And some friends of mine have actually studied this technique and have refined it. Now, first, I want to get your take on the reactor in general. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you know about it, and do you discuss it in your course?
I absolutely discuss it in my course. I'm eager to hear about your friends. This is about the discovery. This is about the initial studies and the directions that were created by Dr. Johnson and his wife, Sue. They together came up with this concept, Hui-Chun Sue and Dr. David Johnson. And so I want to hear more about what you were saying, but basically what this is a static compost that's semi-aerated. So this is a combination of Elaine Ingram's own teaching, but it combines static compost and it combines worm composting. So suddenly we're doing all the forms of composting and then taking an entire year. So suddenly you're like, wait, backtrack for me, Matt. We're doing all compost? Yes. So this is a giant compost heap that is set up to get hot, just like Elaine Ingram's hot compost.
Yeah.
But instead of being turned, these pipes are perforated and they're in there every 12 inches, simulating natural soils, because air can penetrate up to 8 to 12 inches very easily. So this is put together lightly, not compressed, and there's already air in there when you do that. And then these perforated pipes are in there. As it heats up, it actually kind of forms like a cake, and you can pull those right out 3 days in so they don't get like chewed on by the microbes, which, is the right thing to do. And then you leave it. You water it. just enough to keep the reaction going, but you leave it for an entire year and it makes this clayey like compost that's absolutely incredible. And sometimes it's a little bit more produce rich, which actually can be really helpful because you can use it to unlock all the nutrition trapped in the bacteria and shift things automatically more fungal. So this is great for treatment of soils that you're trying to make more fungal. This is great for soils that you want to have a fungal inoculant, because this is also full of fungi. This is the highest fungal counts. This is the highest diversity that we've ever been able to track or prove in the composting world. And from what I understood was that this is the best compost. It combined, because you put worms in it, like I think a month in or 3 months in, and you allow worms to go through it. And so my understanding was that it was like the combination was the best of all the best, and you have this range. But what you're talking about sounds like someone refined it.
Yeah. So the guys over at Easy Grow Food have actually refined the beam over a several year period. And they call it beam because it's a biological inoculant with bacteria, and it forces the mycorrhiza because it has the perfect balance of bacteria to fungi. And in fact, the load is ridiculous. It's thousands of bacteria to tens of thousands of fungi in a specific ratio that they found was the most dense bacteria to fungi. So you can add, let's say, cow manure and alpaca manure to green material, but it's the recipe that they have that gave them the most amazing result. I don't know if Johnson Sioux shared a recipe, but these guys came up with their own recipe, and the results have been proven now. They have a new test farm. The results are like 100% increase in foliar amount, in fruit production, in vegetable production, and it's ongoing. I just got sent pictures tonight. I haven't even looked at, so I'm really interested to see that. But I literally saw an ancient orchard someone had bought. The trees have no leaves. You've seen that orchard. It's like an 80-year-old tree. They sprayed beam on the left side of the root ball. And in 3 weeks, the whole left side of the tree had green leaves. It's mind-blowing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, so we've never, all right, so that's incredible, because I mean, it's one thing where David Johnson's talking about the compost. He's saying that you add it once and then it increases nitrogen fixation, carbon sequestration, which is really the pump of photosynthesis within a plant. That's what it's talking about. Improved for 7 years. It got better and better from one addition. And he was still trying different recipes. It sounds like they settled on a recipe. I wonder what it is.
Yeah, and
because I've got David Johnson's recipes, and I've got like a whole list of like possibilities where you want to shift it this way or shift it that way. But I wonder what they settled on to get that certain ratio. Because if it's tens of thousands to one, that's like. Yeah, that's like the old growth forest. So it's like they've got this regenerative, like pure system going. I wonder what's in their recipe. That is super cool. And if you think about it, the Johnson Sioux experiments were all done in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Very alkaline to begin with. So it's cool that it's so fungal there. You're like, wow, it's so fungal that you made this happen in such an alkaline, oxidized
There's no fungi.
environment.
There's almost no fungi here. There's no fungi here. They did these experiments at the company that I support and my friends at Easy Grow Food. They actually did, Beam itself was used in Mosca, which is in the San Luis Valley, just a little bit east of here, which is the driest high desert in the world. There's no topsoil there. It's literally gravel. And the results are like 200% increase in growth. They simply just sprayed a top level on this one strip next to the other strip, and within weeks, the result is insane. And the reason I think is because we're in such an arid environment where there isn't a lot of fungi and not a lot of bacteria out here, almost nothing molds, that if you're putting thousands of fungi and thousands of bacteria that might need to be there, a few of them are going to make it, and anything would be better. And so they might, because the reason our soils have gone bad, the soil went bad out here for overgrazing and stuff. It's waiting to be better. And so maybe just this quick inoculant. Now, here's the funny thing about beam. The beam itself as a compost is a finished product. You can't reheat it, Matt, because it's so rich in fungi and bacteria that if you actually heat the product, you would damage it. You can't like perpetuate it in a compost tea and add sugar and make more like EM1, because it's not just lactobacillus or something simple like that. It's so many different fungi that are hot and cold, and the beginning and the end of the process, that you have to keep it like that. It stores forever, and it's so simple to use. You just take like a handful of it and rinse it in water and then filter it. And all of the spores and bacteria are in the rinse. And then that's what you spray on the soil. It's not like EM1 where you can use it as a foliar. The foliar is useless. You can spray it on plants, but it won't do anything. You need it in the ground, according to the studies. So what can you say towards that? It only can go in the soil, this type of treatment.
Whoa. Okay. Whoa. All right. Let me digest that. So this is what's been talked about privately among people a lot, is that we can't be putting things in like a vigorous bubbling water system that's violent, and get everything to survive that. Nor can we like submerge it in water for 3 days. Nor the quickness of that, and the fact that you don't, like, this is the thing. When you're doing hot compost, you're like, moan, moan, moan. Like it's violent. You're tearing things up. It's hot. It's cooking. Everything's dying. And you know what I mean? It's this violent process. And then letting it sit, like the Johnson Sioux thing makes so much sense. Letting it like go through all the different stages and all the process. But this is the thing. With mycorrhizal fungi, it doesn't pass through that. With a lot of these more fragile, more precious things, they're never going to pass through that compost tea brewer. They're never going to pass through a hot, or even, you know what I mean, like turned. Yeah, it might not just be like keeping it hot, because it's the thermophilic process is about keeping it hot, and then the Johnson Sioux is like it gets hot and then it goes down, and you don't touch it. So it opens up a ton of implications. It opens up what I've been trying to talk to people about, which I feel is like super simple, but for some folks it's like been really like painful, I guess. But that there's more than just the hot compost can give us, and turning and turning and turning. That's why they're letting it rest now and bringing in inoculants. That's why Johnson Sioux is such a big deal. The bean compost.
Yeah, that makes sense,
but
Matt.
I'd never heard of.
Okay. Well, because I'm just from experience, when I buy like mushroom compost bags and I let them sit, if I let them sit for 6 months and they're moist and I open them, there's mycorrhiza in there. So the compost itself has the ingredients to grow the mycorrhiza, but because it's heated so much, the mycorrhiza can't be alive in there, because when you're growing mushrooms, you kill everything first and then you inoculate it and grow it afterwards when it's not hot. That's how you make mushrooms in a mushroom house. You inoculate the substrate, or you sanitize the substrate so there's nothing alive, and then you put that inoculant in, and then it grows. Yeah. So the compost that we're creating, the normal compost we're creating, is just a great ground to grow the mycorrhiza, not necessarily supplying the soil with all of the fungi that would actually produce the mycorrhiza. So if you have a composted soil, it literally has to have fungi spores fall on it to produce the mycorrhiza, or it has to spark the mycorrhiza in the subsurface to grow. Whereas the beam has all 4,500 fungi in it. So when you spray it in the soil, if 18 of them are ready to go, boom, mycorrhiza grows in 2 days.
Wow. Yeah, I want to see the readout again on the biology for that. I want to pull that up.
Yeah, well, we should actually spend some time
Yeah.
and look at that. That would be a great podcast. What were you saying?
I was just saying, our dark septate endophytes.
I don't even know what that is.
See what that chart is. You know what I'm talking about? That chart that shows all the microbes. It's from his TED talk. Well, anyway, I want to see if dark septate endophytes are in there because I want to see what passes through that process and what gets in, because it makes it really interesting because the worms themselves could be carrying everything.
Oh, yes.
That next stage. So the thermophilic thing can happen, then you have everything from their process there, but then you add these worms that are bringing in a totally different angle, at least 9 different biofertilizing microbes. And then there's this process that happens and we see all this life. So it's super interesting. We could also be seeing those specific mycorrhizae coming through the worms.
You're brilliant, Matt. So instead of buying worm castings at like $50 for 3 pounds, for like $20, we can literally be inoculating an acre, which would be the equivalent of like 8,000 pounds of worm castings, which has all of the fungi and bacteria that those worms may be producing. And by not heating it or destroying them, you simply need to rinse them off and spray them on the soil. And it's as if worms were there. Wow, that could be the key. And I hope we're not letting the cat out of the bag, but all the benefit to Beam and what they've created, because what they created is something that most gardeners can use. Most people in apartments or small homes are not going to make a Johnson Sioux reactor, for goodness sake, and wait 15 months to get their Beam. So this is a great way to get something they're calling a compost, but they're telling you it's not a compost. It was a compost, but the Beam, you're washing off the bacteria and the fungi and you're spraying it on your soil. So you're not even putting the compost down. I guess you could when you're done, because you're going to have a little handful of it. You just throw it in your garden. But the process is rinsing the Beam into solution, filtering it, and spraying it on your soil. So a simple, like every ounce can literally do an entire quarter-acre home of raised beds. And that costs like pennies, a few dollars to get an ounce of it. And they sent me a pound. I think it's $24, and a pound does 1.8 hectares. I mean, it's thousands of gallons of rinse.
I gotta look at this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I can't wait to look at this underneath the microscope. I can't wait to try this out in the new backyard that we're setting up. It's gonna be amazing.
All right, I'll send you some Beam. And maybe if you're into it, you can get into the Beam. I think you and I should make a Diamond Powers Super Beam. And maybe a few years we'll be selling the Super Beam, or even auctioning it off to our listeners, giving it away for free, because I'd love that.
Well, you know me, I love giving away things for free. I've got these webinar series and all these things I do. But I think that what's so incredible is, like doing things for free, these microbes, you get them in there and they cost so little, but the benefit goes on past 5 years from a single edition of this. And it sounds like this new recipe is refined. And now that we talk about it, it might be the location that they're doing it is richer in biology. So like you said, the seeding of these materials by the natural environment. I mean, let's be honest, New Mexico is not like rich like in biology, microbiology on everything, like the South, like cold, even like warm temperate climates that are humid tropical, like places are covered with biology in comparison.
Well,
So we could like this makes so much sense that other places would be able to have other like expressions of beam.
and I hinted to where it was.
Johnson soup.
Yeah, I hinted to where it was
We
being
call it Johnson
produced.
soup.
Is that why you're saying
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
So no, I just was thinking about it, and I was like, well, I realized the limitation of the study.
yeah,
Like, if you think about it, it's like they did it in one of the driest states, in one of the warmer states, and then one of the states that has the craziest geological. I mean, you've driven through, right? It's like, let us go through the evolution of like geology of our planet, together, and
yeah.
it's wild
My
to,
part.
to to think about that as like a birthplace for like microbial soils. Like
Yeah,
that is incredible. That's incredible.
and maybe why the guys at Easy Grow Food have made an incredible beam is because they're making it in the center of the country in an undisclosed location, somewhere that's near lots of organic farming that's exceptionally green with high levels of moisture, huge mushroom content. So you can imagine all the fungi in the air over a year period, literally like thousands of times more fungi than are even in Colorado. And so they have a more biodiverse air supply with high humidity that's going to keep those spores alive for long periods of time and long distances. So you're going to get thousands of types of fungi falling into the reactor through the breathing system. And maybe the worms they're using in that area have already incorporated that fungi into their biology. So you just throw some of the red wigglers from your local area that's more biodynamic than anywhere else, and boom, you get the super beam.
That's awesome. And I think that's the thing is it's like I think people are afraid to get biology sometimes from other areas, but they don't realize that the birds are traveling from pole to pole, continent to continent. You know what I mean? The dust from the Sahara is falling on Texas right now. You know what I mean? Like these things are all connected.
Yeah.
So us taking the biology from an area and repairing, just like bringing a little bit of rock dust, and make sure you only do a little if you ever do it, because rock dust, is very concentrated.
Yeah.
But it's just like with this biology, you just need a little bit because all these places are starved for biology. It's really exciting because, I don't know if you watched that TED Talk recently. That's why I wanted to pull it up because there's like gold solubilizers in there. There's chelators, there's like everything. So I'm sure that you probably could have done a time lapse of the soil in that desert that's your your neighborhood, right? Down the way, like you said. If you did an actual experiment like cameras, you probably could see the soil melt because they're eating the actual minerals and turning them into nutrients that can be passed around. And all the desiccated organic matter is now being consumed and organized.
Well, and what's amazing
So,
this year, Matt, the first time ever in our permaculture orchard, we have mushroom blooms of epic proportions, and they just started a few weeks ago. We have dozens of they look, I mean, I don't even know the mushroom varieties yet, but a lot of them look like oysters and edible mushrooms. But we have thousands of mushrooms coming up. So we've done something right. This wasn't happening ever before. Here we are, like 5th year into EM1 and chop and drop and doing all the right things that we're doing here. We're only giving. And now the orchard has bloomed in the desert. One of the driest places in America here is filled with mushrooms. And it's been sunny for months, and we have mushrooms in direct sun popping out of the ground.
those mushrooms, they release digestive enzymes and digestive acids. It's their activity that has actually liberated all the free calcium, and so instead of those things being inhibited, they actually turn them into nutrients. And so when you see mushrooms, and they also create these hyphal nets that capture water, transport nutrients. But that is such a powerful sign because they literally are going to keep the momentum for you
Yeah.
and lock it in, and then start they're gonna settle in, and once they're in there, you have a system that becomes hyper resilient. That's what regenerative is all about. It's about creating a system that's resilient and gets better and better every year. And you, sir, are living it, and that's why it was so much fun to promote this with you, because you get it, you're living it, and that's kind of like what the new course is about. It's about how we all can incorporate this into whatever we're doing. Any kind of level of complexity we can plug in. We can apply this whether we're, just getting the bean, we're ordering it in, we're inoculating things. We can't make compost. We're in an apartment complex. You know what I mean? We're in the middle of the desert and there's nothing to make compost out of, right? Whatever your case may be, there's no reason to feel bad. We all can plug in somewhere and get started. And that's what my course really is about. It's about giving people the keys and the understanding so that they can unlock the potential of the soils in their area. They can grow good food. They can grow food that will protect them in the hard times, that will nourish them and their family. Food, we always talk about food being medicine, but the medicinal compounds are only made when the food is really healthy. So we got to make our food really healthy if we want to see those medicinal compounds in them. So that's what I really want everyone to be able to do. And that's what that course is all about. And that's what this beam is all about. I love it.
Yeah, so let's talk about your 16-week in-depth course. When does it start? And I got it right here. Guys, if you want to get involved, Monday. All right, it starts Monday. If you want to get involved, you just click up here and subscribe. Hit here, learn more below this video at thepermaculturestudent.com. Now, if I click learn more, what's it going to tell me, Matt?
Well, it's going to tell you all about how you can take advantage of this amazing offer. Because, all right, listen. Permaculture is everything. And I've been teaching everything, but what I discovered, there's one thing that relates to everything. Your animals, well, your animals are only as good as the food that they eat and the clean water that they get. So, and then the same thing with you. The plants you eat and the animals that you eat are all your soil. So I really want people to understand from a fluent perspective what they can do, how they can understand these things from a really simple all the way to complex way. So if you want to dig deeper, I've designed it so you can go deeper. But if you want to just understand these things in a way that allows you to take action and understand it holistically, tying everything together, you can do that as well. So this is more organic matter. This is increasing your soil biology. This is creating plants that are more nutrient dense, no poisons, no toxins, holding more water so that you don't have to use as much water, and overall saving more money, more time, more effort, and having the higher yields and pest resistance, disease resistance that we really need right now in these weird climatic shifts and these storms that have happened, these locust attacks. In Africa, where the locust attacks were happening, people that were following regenerative agriculture didn't see any pest attacks. And bark beetle is a huge problem in the West, but Organics Alive, took worm castings and with special diets and sprayed them on these trees, and the trees suddenly came back to life. So it's like we can do these things. There's miracles and miracles of science that are happening all around us, but the actions are darn simple. And so, working with worms, partnering with fungi, mycorrhizae, learning how farmers are using little bits of minerals like rock dust to make a huge difference in the products of the quality of their products. So it's a 16-week long course. There's 2 to 4 hours a week, so it fits into anyone's schedule. I release videos on Monday, on Friday or Saturday. I have live Q&A, and I have a survey that goes out so people can get their question answered even if they aren't there live. And it has an audiobook, and it's an exclusive audiobook. I haven't released it anywhere else. So I'll be reading the book to you. And basically what this is, the course goes along with each section of the book. The book was a bestseller. I wasn't expecting it to be a bestseller. I didn't realize how much demand there was for this. Or maybe it was promoting it with you, Diamond. but this book, I'm going just through it section by section. I mean, people love it, so I'm just gonna keep on with that, right? And what I did was I went a little bit deeper by going to the actual people who made the studies, who were on the farms, who were successful farmers, successful, lab consultants for successful cannabis farms. I went to everyone, talked to people from all walks of life, to get that consensus and understanding of what the proven methods are. And then, because the way I am, I need to see it as I need to draw it out like perhaps as childlike of me, but I need to like visually see these things to really understand them. And so I made all these things into visuals so that I can know which plants are the ones that have the minerals, because I don't have time or money to go and get like the chemistry set out, and all that jazz. No, like I like understanding that, but I'm going to work with the plants and make special compost to compensate for my plants' nutritional needs when they happen. And then at the same time, like I love the microscope. I'm probably going to get the really expensive microscope someday, but I'm going to still use my eyes, my instincts, my nose, and I'm going to follow recipes, because that's the thing. We can learn all the science, we can learn all the detail, but if we can do the recipes and know when and how much to use those recipes, that's the kind of fluency that we all need to be successful. So I really digested a ton of science to create this, to bring it back down to those pragmatic, straightforward actions, and also to be able to lead us through all the different cycles and interconnections between and the history of soil, so that it's this experience that's memorable and allows us to communicate to others about it. Wow. So there's guest teachers, there's case studies. There's a lot of fun stuff.
It sounds amazing, Matt. And you just put up on the screen there the selenium cycle, for goodness sake. Who even knew there was such a thing? And that's in the book. And that's right before cobalt, for goodness sake. So there's a lot of science to learn, but you don't have to be able to digest that science. Matt's going to be teaching you in person, on a personal level, and even if some of it's confusing, the final words will not be confusing, because it's all practical knowledge, how to implement it. And Matt, you said it yourself. You actually went out to the farmers, because you can read a book, but who even knows who wrote the book, or if the book even is true? I want to know who did it in my area, if it works, and if they're successful. That's how I get information on my area. It's not the same as Indiana, for goodness sakes. I'm in southwestern Colorado. So I need results here and now. And regenerative soil science probably covers all of the types of soil, all the pHs, all the different grow zones, and on and on. As well as the bonus is you get to learn how to build a Johnson Sioux bioreactor, for sake. Build the bean boom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why we have weekly Q&A, so folks can be like, all right, Matt, how does this apply to my soil or my farm or my backyard or my balcony, right? And then we can literally break it down one-on-one in real time. And everyone who's just like you that's watching in the course gets to go, okay, that's how it works for me too. And that's really the only way that we can do this, I think, is to personalize this kind of education. Because, like I said, it's so complicated. Like I'm a cipher. I'm like, I have so much information, that I've gathered, but the actions are so clear and simple. And when I explain it, when I show you the cycles and I explain where you are, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. Because finding balance is just as equal, is putting equal force the opposite way. So if your stuff is too acidic, you add something alkaline. If your stuff is too alkaline, you add something acidic. It's really that simple, you know. If your soil is too dry, you water it. So it's the solutions to so many of these things are really clear when we put them all together. So that's what this is really about. This is not just a way that you can learn how to do all the science and understand things and even learn to use a microscope. You get to talk to me and you get one-on-one consulting and answers from me, as well as other experts that are going to come on and do lives with us.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. We get to do it all together. It's slow paced. That's why it's 16 weeks. I mean, we could do it in 2 weeks, but oh boy, would that be intensive. No need for that.
No, you're.
I like things to be relaxed, fun.
You're scaring me, Matt, because it's a 16-week course, all right, and it's 2 to 4 hours a week. So I'm thinking this is like a very heavy, in-depth undergraduate course. They cost like $1,500. How much does someone have to pay for a 16-week, 4 hours? That's like 50 hours a classroom. What does that cost?
It's over 60.
How much?
Yeah. So it's only $500, and you get the best-selling book, and you get 2 bonus courses, and you get 3 bonus ebooks, and you get the audiobook. So that's the enchilada. But you could also pay $50 a month for up to $600 and have it be a payment plan, and you get the Soil Secrets webinar series, you get the audiobook, you get all these bonuses, but not the full all those extra courses like you would if you paid $500.
Okay.
So there are options there. There are payment plans. There are different bonus options. I've got lots of course options. If you want to do any of this as a business, I've got business training that's a bonus, so that in these hard times, you're like, oh, well, I want to start a seed company. Oh, well, I want to start an inoculant company. Oh, well, I want to start this way to train people on survivalism, this way to train people on seed saving. You can turn that into a business overnight, and I've helped dozens of people do this. And I've had hundreds of people take that course, but I've had dozens of people be very, very successful at this.
Yeah.
So that's a bonus on all this. And so I really want people to be successful.
Yeah, let's just talk about the Johnson Sioux reactor. If you make the standard size one, you could make a few hundred pounds of beam in a year, and you have the beam. Now, if I have 100 pounds of beam, it's going for $20 a pound. Do the math. That's $2,000 you just made in a $100 contraption that you put compost in. Matt, what if you made 5 of them? I mean, that's a $10,000 per cycle business that you could be doing on the side. That's just one level. That's just your compost.
And if it was from a different bioregion from your friends, it could be a completely different consortium.
Yeah, it would be for that region.
You know what I mean? And you could combine it with the stuff from the other region and get even more.
Yeah. Yeah. So the possibilities are endless.
Gotta catch them all.
Possibilities are endless. And by utilizing all these things, you're going to bring up production of anything else you're growing. I mean, for goodness sakes, where I live, it's the most difficult to grow anything. But if I wanted an organic catnip or mint farm, I would make a killing, because the chocolate mint, the peppermint, and the catnip I planted here has proliferated across the property, where there's hundreds of pounds of it growing wild. So if I were actually to try to do it commercially, I could grow tens of thousands of pounds of organic mints and catnips and herbs here. And that's just what I would do as my gig to allow me to do the rest of the things. And we've talked about this. We all should be getting to a point where abundance is normal, where we generate so many things that instead of being a food production farm now, we produce so many peas and different crops here that 90% of it is going to seed, so we can share it with neighbors and increase that abundance. What say you?
And how much do you think that ties into your soil?
Well, what do you mean by that?
like this huge abundance, you know what I mean? The change that you've seen on your property, like how
Oh,
much of that
oh.
is due to the soil, you think,
I
and
mean,
just development of the soil?
look, most of these crops didn't even grow. They were stunted. They were dead. They're in this alkaline hell soil, and you grow a squash and it's 4 inches wide with flowers. It produces a 1 inch fruit. But now we have dark green, lush things growing. It's growing in the same clay soil that might be a little better now, but that clay soil is alive, for goodness sakes. And once the squash kicks in here, it's almost like it's a squash nightmare. You get one, then you get four, then you get 40, then you get 400. And that's like over a period of 2 weeks. So something is going right in the soil. Each year it's more. And each year we have to do less to get more, which allows us more time to spread our opportunities further out and to try new things. I've got new types of sorghum, new types of popcorn here. I'm growing corn in a place that no one can grow corn. And now I'm going to 110-day popcorn in an 80-day growing season. Why? Because I can do it. Because it's that lush and resilient, and it starts early, and it looks healthy, and it finishes earlier than the packet says, because everything in the soil is there.
That's exactly the benefits I describe in my book, that we can speed up the timetable of growth, that we can get healthier, resilient plants. And then the plants themselves are the best at making the soil better. That's so awesome. It's so great to hear that, like, it's transformation. Because I mean, I started off with decomposed granite soil. You look at it really close, you're like, wow, this looks like beach sand or crystals. There's nothing organic, like there's no organic matter there. And I brought in the organic matter, I brought in the plants and everything. But the compost tea made the biggest difference. And now that I know about this compost, I just moved. And so when I learned about Johnson Sioux, I wanted to make a reactor, but I knew I was going to move before the next fire season.
Yeah.
We've moved, still haven't built that tile, but I'm so interested in trying it out, in seeing it under the scope, because there's nothing like it. And the results that they had at once. And now what you're describing is completely next level. And this is what often happens when there's ideas that are cool ideas in academia, and then in commercial environments, people are like, all right, how can I make this unbelievable? You know what I mean? And this is what happens. So I would love to speak with them. I'd love to connect with them, maybe interview them, maybe showcase what they're doing, because it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really exciting, actually, because again, it introduces more complexity that makes things more knowable. Like it's actually like simplicity in the guise of complexity, because you're like, oh wow, well, doing compost in different areas are going to give you different microbes, and that's attractive because we are all starved for microbes. And like, I mean, they look at our gut biomes, it's the same thing. We all need more microbes. The soil needs more microbes. That's where the plants get the microbes. And we get the microbes through the animals and plants that we eat. So it's all one big, beautiful, simple system.
Right. And the most important,
gotta inoculate it.
Yeah, the most important and beneficial aspect to all of this is not the abundance. It's not the increased yield. It's not the increased fertility of the soil. It's not the increased health of our soil. It's not the increased moisture content in our soil. It's the increased micronutrients in the food. And that is what keeps us healthy and keeps us mentally well. And it makes you live the abundant life where you're happy, joyous, and free. And the abundance leads to the joyness, but it's the micronutrients in your body that's preventing virus, preventing illness, and keeping you healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's not an old wives' tale. It's exactly what your grandmother said. You are what you eat, and I love her for that.
Yeah, isn't that amazing that science,
I hate
the simple wisdom that we always do.
You cut out right there. You said, isn't it amazing? And then go from there.
Oh, I was just saying that, isn't it amazing that so many of this common sense stuff
Yeah.
is coming back, and it's connecting to the science and showing us how we can participate, how it's not this big narrative that it's all doom. No, we can make the world a better place on our own little patch of land. We can make the world greener and beautiful. We can make our own little Eden. We can grow our own food. We can be resilient. We can make a beautiful community in our area. And that's really what it all comes down to. I can't wait to walk through your gardens,
Yeah.
to be able to hang out with you. Uh, and the same thing, when I get my seed farm up and running down here, I want you to come visit, walk through my fields of purple speckled corn, and just enjoy the wonder of nature that we get to participate in, because this is what it's really about. It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Matt. And it's been fantastic, guys. If you have the money and you have the wherewithal, and you have the book, and you want to know, I can't suggest Matt's 16-week in-depth course more than anything. Now, do you get some type of certification at the end from you, like assigned? Like I have a degree from Matt Powers, because that would be important to improve my career. Like if I wanted to make my own Johnson Sioux reactors and start selling my own inoculant and make tons of money simply composting while I'm living this abundant life, do I have a certificate from you, Matt?
Absolutely. This certificate process, you're going to have your own project. Maybe you develop a Johnson Sioux system and you make your first Johnson Sioux. And yeah. It's all about getting us to do it. So it's a fun certification process. Get our hands dirty, have some fun, but also make it real. And so everyone who participates, everyone who makes it real, everyone who gets their hands dirty gets certified. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We get to pick our path. I think a lot of us are going to be looking at that Johnson Sioux, that semi-aerated compost.
Now, something just hit me.
It's amazing.
You know the giant manure piles next to the stable that are like this vertical high pile, like a column that's like 12 foot high?
Yeah.
A lot of my neighbors have that. That's almost a reverse Johnson Sioux, because the air is coming from the outside, the vertical column is keeping in the heat, and maybe the exchange is from the outside. And this could be like an 1800s technique where they were concentrating the microbiome or the biome in there, and then they spread it on the fields, and that's why they had huge returns in their grains. So I think that those old techniques, just like what Grandma said, are coming back to bite us in the buttocks. But we're creating systems to actually, to supercharge the old ways, to utilize them for our maximum benefit in the future. Isn't that hilarious?
It's really wild. But we now know the exact caveats, conditions, and context for what to do. It's like, this is why we know not to make compost tea with the beam. There's too much that's fragile in there. We just got to get it on the soil immediately and let's go. So it's that understanding that's allowing us to take these right steps to save energy, to save time. And then also, making it available the way they are, $20 for like being able to rinse it and have it be that so the teaspoon for a quarter acre.
Yeah, it's like 1 ounce for about a quarter acre.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, and most people don't even have that in raised beds. So for like an $8 purchase, you can literally hit 80 raised beds, because you're just putting it in a sprayer, and saturating the soil with it. That's it.
So for one pound, for $20, that's 4 acres. It's a lot of land.
No, it's 20 for the
it's
pound.
4 acres.
The pound does 1.8 hectares, which is a little over an acre, I believe. That's a massive area.
Okay.
That's a massive area. $20 to treat 200 by 200. I mean, that's, even in the cheapest chemical fertilizer, it's going to cost you 3 times that.
And with these microbes, they'll solubilize things that nothing would be able to unlock otherwise.
Right. So
I'm so fascinated. This is going to.
Well, I'm going to.
Early days.
I'm
the most amazing thing about this.
Yeah. I'm rinsing and spraying the beam tomorrow, so we will know what happens at the end of the season, because I know how things grow. And I think that what will happen in 4 weeks is my mind will be blown, because some crops may finish before the end of our season, which doesn't ever happen here. You know what I mean? We're waiting for the frost, and that's when the crops end.
Yeah. It's like cowpeas. You have a hard time finishing cowpeas, I bet.
Yeah, they start flowering too late, and then you get a few, and then they're still trying to reach for the stars.
Yeah. I love them, though. Cowpeas are really good-natured.
Well, and they're great nitrogen fixtures for all beginners, creating like hugelkultures or any new mound structure that you build. It's like integral into what you first do. And also joining Matt Power's Regenerative Soil 16-week program would be integral into how you move forward if you want to change your life, change your lifestyle, and maybe change the way you think about the world and how you make money. Because Matt, you did the same thing I did. You said, look, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to be successful. You do the positive mantras I do. The reason we are successful is because we told ourselves we're going to be. And success is measured not in dollars. It's measured in the way we feel when we wake up and what we're doing. Like, are you literally living a power-driven life with purpose? If your life is purpose-driven, and the way we're doing it is, the purpose that we have not only benefits us, but it benefits everyone around us that listens. For goodness sakes, how could that not make you feel wonderful? I don't care if anyone watches my channel or donates to my channel. I really don't. It's the people that send me emails that said I changed their life. They feel healthier, they're happier, and they've disconnected, and they're doing these things that are purposeful, that will feed and nourish their family, and it's given them peace of mind. That's all we're offering everyone is peace of mind, and we're giving them the best science, the most proven methods, using evidence-based works, for goodness sakes. And you're writing it all down in books so we can keep it forever on our shelves. And we love you for that.
Thank you for having me, Diamond. This was fun.
Yeah, it always is. And we love you, Matt. It's been a pleasure. Now I'm going to blow everyone's mind. The next time Matt and I talk, it is going to be based on the global warming narrative. And we're going to be talking about CO2 sequestration and what these new types of compost like Beam are actually doing to Earth, and what we know about Earth in the past, and what we know about Earth moving forward, and what we actually need on Earth, and that is more CO2.
Which means more fungi, which sounds complicated. It's not complicated, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we will. All right, Matt Powers, it's been a pleasure.
It'll work.
It always works out. Regenerative Soil, the in-depth online course, 16-week in-depth course starting on Monday. Now, is there a discount coupon code for Oppenheimer Ranch subscribers?
I don't have any discount codes. No, I feel unprepared. Oh my! But actually, the middle choice was $100.
Power just went out here, Matt. The power just went out here, Matt. Boom! And we're back after a lightning strike that took us out, Matt. So you were just talking about the middle choice. Now, what's the middle choice?
It's the course and the physical book while supplies last. I only have 70 copies left that I'm going to be signing and sending out. So this is, I'm going to be, there's Regenerative Soil, the physical book. There's also 3 bonus ebooks, the Permaculture Student 2, the Permaculture Student 2 workbook, the Regenerative Career Guide. The audiobook is included. It's lifetime access. There is, on top of all this bonus course, which is a 5-day event. It's a replay of Our Future, which is all these amazing entrepreneurs. Probably heard of Paul Stamets. He was on Joe Rogan.
I'm from Philly. I know Paul. I'm from Philly.
Yeah. Yeah. So Paul was there talking about starting Fungi Perfecti, talking about how difficult it was actually. Guayaqui's founder, I don't know if you like yerba mate. I love Guayaki. They were there, and so this has over 30 people who have started their own business recently or in the past that make the world a better place.
Yeah.
That are growing forests, that are using fungi. That, you know what I mean? These are incredible stories, but they're also lessons that we can take on and we can make real. So that's an incredible bonus. It's 5 days of videos. And and the certifications included, and the online community and lifetime access with weekly live Q&A. And that used to be $600. It's now $500, 5 easy payments of $100, and you get all of that.
Yeah, because
So that is something.
$200 of it is just books and stuff that you can't get without paying that. And to get the $75 regenerative soil book signed by you is worth easily $100 in my opinion. So they're literally only paying $250 for the course, which is pennies per hour. I mean, you can't get this information anywhere else. It's coming from you. They have live access to you as if you were their professor, where they can ask you anything. So, and I'm sure if they complained, you would give their money back, but I'm sure no one in history has ever done that. Maybe they have because they didn't have enough time to watch the show. But with lifetime access, even if you miss it, you have access forever.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we do. I mean, I've had people have like things happen in their lives, and like I've had to do a couple returns here and there, and that's understandable. That's life. But we have incredible communities that we form around these courses, and they become bioregional over time as people get connected with other course members that are online, but they meet them in real life. They set up businesses, communities, farms, seed swaps, you know what I mean, barbecues, you know, concerts. They get together, and it's an amazing thing. And for me, I mean, the toxic comments and all the different armchair, you know, criticism that you find in Facebook and all these kinds of things. These are the places online that I find community, where it's a place where people can feel free to talk about their problems and their needs without feeling like they're being attacked or ridiculed. And so I really value these communities a lot. I think that they're incredibly valuable. So that's as well included. And when we work as peers, when we like talking today, you know, I mean, you talking to me about Beam, your friend's Beam recipe, thinking about Beam in other environments, like it opens all these doors. And that's why there's something fertile. I mean, like we look at like, sometimes like there's certain areas that are fertile, the music scene or the academic scene over there, or the philosophy scene over here. There's sometimes areas that are really fertile, and that's what these communities are, because everyone's there to learn more. Everyone's eager. They're wanting to share and talk. So this could be a place where you can learn so much more than even what's in the content because of that community.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Every time we talk, we bring the conversation up higher, we connect the dots, and we move forward. We actually are benefiting from these conversations. It's called the multidisciplinary approach, where you have different experts in different fields doing different things, sharing knowledge, and bringing the entire conversation to the to the top, I don't even know the right word for it. It would, it is literally,
Holistic.
yeah, it's the crescendo though. And each time there's a new crescendo, and we're higher and more mobile and more flexible and more knowledgeable. So always a pleasure having you on, Matt Powers, the permaculture student. Check him out at thepermaculturestudent.com for Regenerative Soil 16-week in-depth study. Just click here to learn more. And the book, Regenerative Soil. If you can't afford the course, buy the book, and you can buy it directly from Matt, and he'll sign it. He's only got 75 copies from the first printing, which means a second printing is coming soon. Change your life, change the world. We love you, Matt Powers. And that's a boom. To Beam.
Thank you so much. Love. Thank you so much.
No.